Good morning, students. Today we will discuss in the front end design tool VB.NET. We will discuss data set with OLEDB and SQLDB. OLEDB is SQL linking and embedding, and SQLDB is SQL database. So the list of topics to be covered are dataset with OLEDB, dataset with SQLDB, and the data binding. Let's start. So this dataset with OLEDB data source. The dataset contains the copy of the data we requested through the SQL statement. So copy means to say the data set actually contains the data we requested through the SQL. Suppose we are writing select star from EMP, then this from EMP, so this EMP table will extract the data, and that data set actually contains the copy of that, so that we can use this data set in combination with OLEDB data adapter class. So that we can use it and then update this data into the database. The OLEDB data adapter object allows us to populate data tables in a data set. We can use fill method in the OLEDB data adapter for populating data in a data set. Okay. The data set with OLEDB data source. Let's see this. Okay, let's see this example. In this example, you can see that this is the code. So what is the code? Just see this: imports system.data.oledb. First of all, we will import this statement. Then we will make a class. So let's see. This is a public class form1. Now, if this is the button one underscore click, we will make a button, and on the click event of the button we will write the following code. So it will when you are making in the VB.NET and you are just selecting button from the toolbox, this code will automatically come, but whatever you are writing within the code, that you will have to see. So private sub button one underscore click by value sender as system dot object by value e as system dot event arguments handles button one dot click. Now dim, we will use this variable. Connection string is a variable. Dim connection string as string. So connection string is a variable of type string. Now connection, we will make another variable. It is a variable of type OLEDB connection. Now we will take a OLEDB adapter. This variable OLEDB adapter is an OLEDB data adapter. This now we will take a DS. DS is a variable of type DS as new data set. So now we are making an object of the new data set. Dim SQL as string and dim I as integer. Now connection string is equals to provider equals to Microsoft.z.oledb 4.0 column. In the next line it should be written as data source equals to your MDB file name. Whatever your MDB file is, so that will be data source equals to your MDB file name. SQL is equals to your SQL statement here. Whatever the query, let's say you are writing select star from EMP, or you are writing select name from EMP where name equals to something good, anything else. Now connection equals to new OLEDB connection, then connection string. Now then we are using this try catch block. Whatever the code that may throw some error, we are writing that code in the try block, and whatever the error we can catch with the help of the catch statement. So try this connection dot open OLEDB data adapter equals to new OLEDB data adapter SQL and connection. Now OLEDB adapter dot fill into DS. Now we are passing the argument DS, that is a data set, and OLEDB adapter dot dispose, and now we will close the connection, that is the connection dot close, and we will make perform a loop, that is for I equals to 0 to ds.tables 0 dot rows dot count minus 1 message box equals to ds.tables 0 dot rows I dot item 0, and this is just a single space we are providing, and we are adding with the help of the ampersand ds dot table 0. Table 0 means it is the first table, and row I is for the loop which we are the row 0 will be the first row, and item 1 is into the second column. Now for next, this is for next. Now catch ex as exception message was cannot open connection. Now end, we will end the try block, end sub block, and the end class block. And when you will run this call, you will get the data. Okay. Now the data set with SQL server. So the data set contains the copy of the data we requested through the SQL statement. We can use dataset in combination with SQL data adapter class. The SQL data adapter object allows us to populate data tables in a dataset. We can use fill method in the SQL data adapter for populating data in a dataset. Now, you've seen, this earlier, just see the previous example. In the previous example, what we have taken? In the previous example, we have taken connection equals to new OLEDB connection, and now we are taking the SQL connection. So in this is connection as SQL connection. So again, the same is import systems.data.sql client. Then we are making a class, public class form1. Then we are making a button on the button, the click event of the button. Since this is the by default button 1, its name, we have not changing the name of it. That is why it is written button 1. Now we are taking dim connection string as string, connection as SQL connection. Earlier it was data connection. Now command is SQL command, adapter as new SQL data adapter, DS as new data set. Earlier it was OLEDB, now it is a SQL connection, I as integer, and SQL as a string. In the same way, now connection string equals to data source equals to server name, initial catalog equals to database name, user ID equals to username, and password equals to password. You will write down whatever the SQL username and password so that it can take the data from that SQL. Now you will write SQL statement. Let's say select star from EMP. You can write now connection equals to new SQL connection string. Now writing the code in the try block, and in the end we will make this end try and end. So the connection dot open. First of all, we will open the connection, and in the last we will close the connection. Connection dot open command equals to new SQL command SQL comma connection. Now adapter dot select command equals to command. Here we will write the command. Okay. You have seen in this command as SQL command. Okay. So and this SQL equals to your SQL query. So here the command equals to new SQL command SQL whatever the SQL query comma connection, this connection. So now adapter dot select command equals to command adapter dot fill ds adapter dot now dispose common command dot dispose. You say you are disposing adapter, you command end connection dot close. Whatever the connection you have opened, you are just closing that connection. Now you are we are opening a loop for next loop for I equals to 0 to ds dot table 0 dot row dot count minus 1 minus 1, and since it is start from 0, so it will maximum minus 1, it will loop will go to that msg box ds dot table 0 rows I item 0 and ds dot table 0 rows I in item 1. In the first message box it will display 0 any table in the first table, first row and first item, and in the this again it will first table, first row, and the second item it will display. Now catch as exception, catch ex as exception message box cannot open it, cannot open connection, and okay, and then we will end try end 7 end class. Now we will start this data binding. Data binding is a powerful feature provided by the .NET framework that enables visual elements in a client to connect to a data source, such as datasets, data views, and arrays, etc. Some of the visual elements in the client can be text box, data grid. So it is the visual elements, means to say text box you are able to see, data grid you are able to see, and some of the visual elements in the client which you can see. A two-way connection is established such that any changes made to the data source are reflected immediately in the visual element and vice versa. Let's see pictorially. This is above is a graphical description of the concept of the data binding. So let's see this. What you are seeing? You are seeing a data source one is there. In this data source one is binding object of the data grid, and in the second one, data source one, we are seeing a binding of object of a text box. In the one, you can say if you are binding the data with the text box, it is the simple data binding. And when we are binding the data with the help of the data grid, this is called the complex data binding. So in this way, the data binding is happening. If you are binding the data with the help of the text box, it is a simple data binding. If you are binding the data grid with the help of this, then it will be a complex data binding. Data binding before .NET. So in the earlier data binding models, the data source that could be used was usually limited to a database. All DBMS systems provided their own APIs, application programming interface, to help in building GUI applications and quickly bind them to the data. Programmer did not have the flexibility to control the data binding process, with the result that most developers avoided the use of data binding. The .NET framework provides a very flexible and powerful approach to data binding and allows the programmer to have a fine control over the steps involved in the whole process. So one of the biggest improvements with .NET has been the introduction of data binding to web pages through the use of .NET server-side web controls. So with the help of the .NET server-side web control, you can easily, bind the data with the web pages. Hence, building data-driven web application has been greatly simplified. So if you wish, the data-driven web application has been greatly simplified. Now, simplex and complex data binding, we have discussed this thing that the .NET framework supports simplex and complex data binding. Simplex data binding is supported control like text boxes, which we have seen in the figure also. In the simple data binding, only one data value can be displayed by the controller at a time. In a complex data binding, which is supported by the controls like the data grid, so more than one data value of the from the data source can be displayed. Now, advantages of the data binding. So data binding in .NET can be used to write data-driven applications. Data-driven applications quickly. .NET data binding allows .NET data binding allows you to write less code with fast execution, but still get the work done in the best way. .NET automatically writes a lot of data binding code for you in the background. You can see this in the window generated code section. The developers does not have to spend time writing code for basic data binding, but it still has the flexibility of modifying any code that he would like to. We get the benefits of bound as well as unbound approach, control over the data binding process by using events. Now, what are the disadvantages of the data binding? So the disadvantage, more optimized code can be written by using the unbound or traditional methods. Complete flexibility can only be achieved by using the unbound approach. So here we will stop. This is all about, thing, and this is the reference. Now in the next topic we will discuss about crystal report. So thank you, and